First story, The Eyes in the Dark, 1942. I still can't fully grasp what happened to me. It's been years, but the images, the sounds, the feelings, they're all so clear. I was just a soldier back then, just doing my duty in the midst of the chaos of war. It was 1942. We were deep in enemy territory, cold, muddy, and always on edge. I remember nothing out of the ordinary happening during that day. No sign, no warning. But then, something strange occurred. I was out on a routine patrol with my unit. But as we were moving through the forest, everything just stopped. No noise, no wind, no birds. It felt like the world had gone silent, and the air was unnaturally still. That's when it happened. I don't know how to explain it, but everything around me started to twist. The trees, the ground, the sky. They didn't just look different, they felt different, like they were being pulled in ways that didn't make sense. And then, in the blink of an eye, I was somewhere else. I thought I was dead. I had to be, right? There was no other explanation for what I was seeing. The world I knew, the world of 1942, was gone. Instead, I was standing in the middle of a city that looked like something out of a dream, something beyond anything I had ever seen. Buildings that were too tall, cars that moved without horses, and people who seemed to glow with an energy I couldn't understand. The air was different. It was thick with some sort of hum, a noise that wasn't really a noise, just a pressure, like the atmosphere itself was alive. But that wasn't the most terrifying thing. It was how everything seemed wrong. Everything felt too clean, too perfect. I didn't belong there. I knew that deep down I wasn't just lost in some foreign place. No, this wasn't just a strange city in some unknown part of the world. This was the future, and I had somehow been ripped from my time and thrown into it. I spent days wandering through this strange future, unable to make sense of anything. I didn't know how to talk to anyone, let alone explain what had happened to me. But I couldn't help it. I had to try. So I approached a man in one of those shining silver suits, hoping he'd recognize my distress. But when I spoke, he just looked at me like I was insane. In his eyes, I saw pity, but not the kind of pity you show to someone who's lost. It was the pity you show to someone who doesn't belong, who's out of place in a world that they should never have entered. They didn't understand me, but they didn't push me away either. I was just different. The whole world felt like it was moving on without me, and I realized in that moment I wasn't supposed to be there. No one could explain how or why I ended up in this future, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't ever meant to come back. The worst part? The fear. It wasn't just the strange sights or the unsettling sounds that made my skin crawl. It was the way people reacted when I started asking about the past. No one seemed to know what I was talking about. It was as if history itself had been erased. The war, it didn't exist. In their world, the things I had lived through, the people I had fought with, the places I had known, all of it was like a dream that had faded into nothing. No one could even remember a time like mine. They all looked at me as if I had come from a time long forgotten. I felt like I was being swallowed by the future. There was no place for me there, and that's when I began to realize something. The people here weren't normal. They looked normal on the outside, sure. But there was something inside their eyes, something that made me shiver every time they glanced at me. They were different. I didn't know what it was, but I felt like they weren't just humans. At least not in the way I understood it. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It started small, just a sensation at first. But then it grew. Every corner I turned, every time I stepped into a new room, I felt it. Those eyes. At first I thought it was paranoia, but it was more than that. It wasn't just one or two people staring. It was everyone. Their gazes followed me like I was some kind of exhibit in a zoo. Every time I tried to talk to someone, they either ignored me or acted like I wasn't even there. But then, late one night, I saw them in the alley behind a building just outside my sight, standing still, unmoving. A group of them. I didn't know if they were human, but they didn't look like anything I had ever seen before. Their skin was pale, almost sickly, and their eyes, God, their eyes were enormous, dark, and empty. I didn't even know if they had bodies. They just seemed to float like shadows against the wall. My heart pounded in my chest. I ran, terrified, but it was too late. I knew then, with every fiber of my being, that these weren't just people. They weren't even human. They were something else. The terror didn't stop there. I thought I had escaped them, but it wasn't the case. I began having these dreams, vivid and grotesque. I would close my eyes, and suddenly I was back in the alley. The figures, they were closer now, surrounding me, reaching out with cold, long fingers. They never spoke, never made a sound. But their presence alone was enough to send me into a panic. I could feel them, close enough to touch me, yet always just out of reach. But the worst part, they would show me things I didn't want to see. I saw the future, twisted, horrifying, and alien. I saw the world collapsing, cities burning, people screaming, and I realized that I wasn't just a witness, I was part of it. These creatures, whatever they were, had brought me here for a reason. I was part of their plan, a plan I couldn't comprehend, a future I couldn't change. And every time I woke up, drenched in sweat and gasping for air, I felt it, the presence of them, lingering in my mind, watching, waiting. As the days wore on, the sense of dread only grew stronger. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being dragged deeper into something I didn't understand. I tried everything to get out, to break free from this nightmare, but nothing worked. The dreams kept coming, and I couldn't sleep for fear of seeing those things again. The whispers began. It started with just a low murmur in the back of my mind, something I couldn't quite make out, but then it became clearer, sharper. I began hearing them even when I was awake. Not words exactly, but like thoughts slipping into my head, thoughts that didn't belong to me. I heard them whispering about me, about what they planned for me, about what I was supposed to become. I couldn't stop it. No matter how hard, I tried to focus on something else. Those thoughts crept in, colder and more invasive each time. It felt like I wasn't in control of my own mind anymore. Every moment I was awake was a struggle to hold on to what little sanity I had left. But I knew I was losing, slowly, piece by piece. And then it happened again. I don't know how to explain it, but one moment I was walking down a street trying to clear my head, and the next, I was somewhere else. The same sense of disorientation hit me like a freight train. I couldn't even remember how I got there. I looked around, and this time it wasn't the future. It was dark, suffocating. The air was thick, and the ground felt like it was pulsing beneath my feet. And there they were, standing in front of me. I couldn't see their faces, not at first, but I could feel their presence. They were there, waiting, watching. I couldn't move. I was frozen. My body wouldn't obey, but my mind screamed. And then, like a flash of lightning, everything became clear. I understood. They weren't just here for me. They had been following me for longer than I realized. The reason I had felt out of place, the reason the world seemed to change every time I looked away, it was because I was being hunted. I was never meant to leave that night. I was never meant to be in the world I came from. These creatures, these things, had been waiting for me for a long time. The next few moments felt like they stretched into eternity. They closed in on me, but it wasn't with the same cold touch I had felt before. It was different now, more tangible. I could feel their hands on my skin, their cold fingers tracing the lines of my face. They didn't speak, but their eyes. I can still see them, even now as I write this. The blackness of their eyes swallowed me whole, and for the first time I realized what they were. They were not alien in the way I had thought. They were not creatures from another planet. No, they were something older, something ancient. They were part of something far beyond the understanding of humans. And I was just a pawn in their game. A pawn that they had picked long ago, someone who was never meant to escape. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't need to hurt me. All they had to do was show me what I had become, what I was going to become. And that was enough to break me. The next thing I remember is waking up. Or at least I think I woke up. I was back in the same city, but everything felt different. The streets seemed quieter, the people more distant. It wasn't just the environment that had changed. I had changed. I felt hollow, empty, like something had been taken from me, but I couldn't place what. It was like my body was there, but my soul wasn't. I tried to speak to someone, to make sense of what had happened, but all they did was look at me with those empty, pitying eyes again. I felt like I was trapped in a loop, a nightmare that wouldn't end. The whispers had stopped for a while, but now they were back, louder than before. I couldn't escape them. They filled my mind, pulling at me, telling me things that I didn't want to hear. They weren't just thoughts now. They were commands. They wanted me to do things. The worst part, I didn't even fight it. I wanted to, but it was like my willpower had evaporated, replaced by an overwhelming need to obey. It was like I had become a different person entirely, a person who wasn't in control of their own actions anymore. And that terrified me more than anything. I started to notice the signs, the subtle changes in the people around me. At first, I thought I was just imagining it. But the longer I stayed in that place, the more I realized that I wasn't the only one who had been affected. I'd catch glimpses of others, people who seemed off. Their eyes, their movements, the way they interacted with one another. It wasn't normal. They weren't behaving like humans. They were controlled, like puppets on strings. And then, one night I saw one of them up close. A person who had been a stranger to me for weeks. But as I looked at him, something in his eyes shifted. It was subtle, but it was there. I saw the same emptiness in him that I had seen in myself. It wasn't just that we were in this strange future. We were becoming a part of it, part of whatever it was that controlled us. There was no escaping it. I had become just like them, and I hated myself for it. The days bled into each other, and I lost track of time. I couldn't remember when I had arrived, and I couldn't remember when I had last felt like a human being. My thoughts were no longer my own, and every attempt to break free, to resist, felt weaker than the last. It was like I was disappearing, like the person I had been was being erased, replaced by something else. I started to see things, flashes of memories that weren't mine, glimpses of a life I never lived, a world I had never known. It was like I was seeing the lives of the people around me, their past, their future, everything. I could feel their emotions, their thoughts, their pain, and it all mixed together in my mind until I couldn't separate myself from them anymore. I had become part of something bigger, something that wasn't just a place or a time, but a system that fed on the very essence of who we were, and there was no escaping it. I was trapped, not in this world, but in my own mind. I was no longer human, I was something else. Then, one day it stopped, just like that. I woke up, but this time I felt different. I wasn't in that strange future anymore. I was back. I was in my own time, my own world. But something was wrong. It wasn't just the feeling of disorientation. It was the fact that I knew, deep down, that I wasn't really back. I couldn't remember how I got here or why. I just knew that whatever happened to me, whatever I had become, was still with me. I could feel it, a part of me that was forever changed. But there were no more whispers. No more creatures lurking in the shadows. For a while, I convinced myself it had all been a dream. But deep down, I knew better. I didn't know what they wanted, or what I was supposed to do now. I just knew that they were out there, somewhere, waiting. I couldn't escape them, and I couldn't escape the feeling that they were still watching me, waiting for the moment when they would take me again. It's been years since that day, and I still don't know what happened to me. I don't talk about it, not to anyone. I don't know if I should, but the fear never really left. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I feel their presence, like a weight on my chest. I still hear the whispers, faint but there, buried deep in my mind. I don't know if they'll come for me again. I don't know if they ever left. But I do know this, whatever they were, whatever they wanted, they changed me, and I'll never be the same. I'm writing this because I can't forget. I can't forget the eyes that watched me, the hands that touched me, the cold feeling that settled in my soul. I can't forget the way they made me feel like nothing, like I didn't matter. I don't know if anyone will believe me, but I have to say it. I have to let someone else know that I wasn't just losing my mind, that whatever happened to me, whatever happened to all of us, it was real, and I have no idea how to live with it. I still don't. Maybe that's why I'm writing this. Maybe it's the only way to keep myself from going crazy, from feeling like they're always right behind me watching. I don't know if I'm the only one. I don't know if anyone else has ever felt this way, but I know one thing for sure. I can't shake the feeling that they're still out there. Second story, The Jungle That Never Let Us Go, Vietnam, 1966. I've never shared this before, but the things I experienced that day in the jungle, I can't shake them off no matter how hard I try. I'm posting this here because maybe, just maybe, someone else has had a similar experience. Maybe someone can help me understand what happened, or at least confirm I wasn't losing my mind. It was 1966, and we were part of a reconnaissance team sent out into the dense jungles of Vietnam. There had been reports of unusual movements, and the higher-ups wanted to know what was going on, so they sent us in. At first it was routine, a lot of walking, listening for strange sounds, and trying to keep a low profile. But then, something happened that changed everything. It started with a light, a strange, bright object in the sky. We all saw it, hovering above the treetops, too still for a plane or anything we recognized. It wasn't flashing like an aircraft beacon. It was just there, glowing almost unnaturally in the midday sun. We weren't supposed to report anything. That wasn't part of our mission, but everyone had the same uneasy feeling. We all knew something wasn't right, but we tried to ignore it and focused on the task ahead. That was a mistake. The following day, our team got word that another unit was being sent to investigate the object. We didn't think much of it at first, maybe because we'd seen weird stuff before and it was just another assignment. But when they came back, things got weird. They didn't report anything about the object itself, just the footprints. No sign of any craft, no sign of anyone or anything, just these strange, clear tracks in the dirt, almost like someone had been walking through the jungle. The thing was, the footprints didn't make any sense. They didn't belong to any animal, not a man either. They were too big, too spaced apart. But here's the part that still gives me chills. The tracks ended abruptly, right in the middle of nowhere. They didn't just fade away, they stopped like someone had vanished into thin air. The team that went in to investigate said it was the most unsettling thing they'd ever come across. They searched the area for hours and found nothing else. No sign of struggle, no trace of the men who'd left the tracks. Just an empty jungle and a whole lot of questions. We weren't supposed to talk about it, but word spread fast, especially after the second group went missing. They weren't even close to being found when we went to search. I remember standing in the same spot where those tracks had been discovered, feeling the weight of the air around me. It was thick, like the humidity had suddenly doubled. We searched for hours. I don't know what we thought we'd find, but it was like every step we took made the air heavier. The trees felt like they were closing in on us, the sounds of the jungle growing strangely distant, muffled as if we were in some kind of bubble. The worst part, I don't know if we were ever really alone out there. The further we went into the jungle, the more things didn't make sense. The sounds of the forest seemed to fade, and there were moments when everything went dead quiet. No animals, no birds, no insects. Just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel natural. That's when the sense of something watching us became almost unbearable. It wasn't paranoia either. There was a presence. Something that didn't belong there. I can't explain it, but it was like the jungle itself was holding its breath, waiting. As we pushed deeper into the jungle, the feeling of being watched never left. It was like the trees themselves were observing us, and the silence, it wasn't just deafening, it was suffocating. My heart raced as the hours ticked by. The strange object in the sky had long disappeared, but the sense of dread still hung in the air. We hadn't found anything. No more tracks, no more signs of life, human or animal. Just the deep green of the jungle stretching endlessly around us. We set up camp that night, though none of us slept. Every creak of a tree, every rustle in the leaves sent us on edge. The rest of the team tried to keep it together, but I could see it in their eyes. They were just as unnerved as I was. I remember staring out into the darkness, trying to find something to focus on, anything. That's when I saw it again, a light far off in the distance. It was the same light we had seen earlier, but now it was moving. Slowly, almost as if it were floating just above the jungle floor. I wasn't the only one who saw it. The whole camp was frozen, staring into the night. We didn't move, not a single breath. Whatever it was too strange to even comprehend. There was no sound from the light, no engine noise, nothing that made sense. It just hovered, drifting, almost as if it were studying us. We didn't dare get any closer to it. I don't know why. I think we all knew that whatever it wasn't something we could fight. I've seen my fair share of danger in the field, but this wasn't anything like I'd experienced before. There was no enemy to face, no clear threat, but the terror was real. We packed up and started heading back, but the jungle seemed different now, more oppressive. The trees towered over us like they were closing in. We were on edge, not speaking to each other, barely making any noise. And then we heard it. A sound, faint at first, almost like a whisper. It wasn't coming from any of us, and it wasn't the usual jungle sounds. It was soft, almost like a hum, but it was impossible to tell where it was coming from. The air was colder, and it felt like the trees themselves were moving, bending toward us. We tried to keep our bearings, but something wasn't right. The path back to our camp had changed. The landmarks we'd passed earlier didn't seem to be in the same place. It was like the jungle itself had shifted and we were lost. We kept walking, but it was like we were walking in circles. I'm not saying we were hallucinating, but at that moment, I really wasn't sure what to believe anymore. After what felt like hours, we finally made it back to our camp. Or at least, what we thought was our camp. Everything felt off. The fire we'd left burning was out. The tents, the equipment, everything was where it shouldn't be. Our supplies were scattered around, and we couldn't find anyone else who had been with us before. It was just us, standing in the middle of a scene that didn't make sense. I can't explain it. My mind was racing. I knew we weren't alone, but I couldn't see who or what was out there with us. The light we had seen earlier was gone, but the feeling of being watched never left. We packed up again, but this time, no one said a word. We left the jungle that night and none of us spoke about what had happened. None of us wanted to admit it, but we all knew. Whatever we had encountered out there, whatever we had seen, wasn't human. It wasn't from this world. There's no way to explain it, no words to describe the terror. We were lucky to make it out. I don't know if we were meant to see that, or if we stumbled into something we weren't supposed to. All I know is that I'll never forget it. No matter how hard I try, I can't. It's still with me, that fear, that presence. And the thing that haunts me the most, the moment we left, the moment we thought we were safe, I turned back. Just for a second. And there, standing at the edge of the jungle, was something watching us. It never moved, never made a sound. It was just there, watching us. And that's the last thing I saw before we left. I haven't been back since. I don't think I ever will. It's been years now, but the memories of that day still feel so fresh. I keep trying to move on, but the images never leave. Every time I close my eyes, I see that jungle, hear those unnatural whispers in the air, and feel the weight of whatever was lurking in the shadows. I can't explain what we encountered out there. The military never got back to us about it. No reports, no follow-ups, nothing. It was like they wanted to pretend it never happened. And maybe, in a way, they did. but they can't erase what we saw. We all returned home, but there wasn't much comfort in being back. It's hard to talk about even now. When I look back, I wonder if any of us really made it back. Physically, yeah, we came home. But there's a part of me that was left behind in those woods, and I can't shake it. It's like something followed us, something that's still watching. After we left the jungle, we didn't speak much. We didn't need to. We all knew the same thing. We couldn't talk about it, not to anyone, and we didn't. But as time passed, the paranoia started creeping in. Small things, details, started adding up. There were nights when I'd wake up, drenched in sweat, feeling that cold air again, the one I had felt in the jungle. I'd hear that hum in my ears, distant but constant. I'd sit up in bed, looking out the window, waiting for something, anything to happen. And sometimes, just sometimes, I'd swear I saw something in the corner of my eye. Something standing outside my house, hidden in the dark. There's this sense of disbelief, a part of you that tries to tell you it was all a dream, some kind of weird collective hallucination. But the problem is, it wasn't. The others, the guys I was with, they don't talk about it either. They avoid it, like if we ignore it long enough, it'll go away. I've seen them at reunions, and we've never once brought it up. It's like the memory of that place, of what happened, hangs between us like a shadow, and we all know it's there. The worst part, though, the worst part is the feeling that something is still watching, waiting. I hear stories from other guys who went to Vietnam, and some of them talk about things they saw in the jungle. Strange lights, strange shapes, things they can't explain. I don't know if they saw the same thing we did, but I can't help but think that there's a connection. Sometimes I wonder if those creatures, or whatever they were, are still out there somewhere. I try not to think about it too much. It's too much to bear. But I can't forget the look on the faces of the men in that second group when they came back, the look of terror in their eyes. Whatever they saw out there, it wasn't just the jungle. It was something else. Something not from this world. It haunts me to this day, and I don't think I'll ever truly understand it. I don't think anyone will. The nightmares, they come and go. Some nights I'll wake up with my heart racing, feeling like I'm back in that jungle, hearing the whispers in the trees, hearing the hum in the air. Sometimes I even hear footsteps behind me too close. But when I turn around, no one's there. It's like my mind can never fully escape the jungle, and maybe it's true, it doesn't want to. It's been over 50 years since that day, and I still haven't been able to shake the feeling that it's not over. People talk about Vietnam in a lot of ways, but no one talks about the things that can't be explained. The things that make your skin crawl just thinking about it. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like I'm living in two realities. The one I've built after coming home, and the one that's still haunting me, waiting for me to remember, waiting for me to understand. I don't know what we saw out there. I don't know if it was something that just happened to us, or if it was something that was always there, something that's been waiting. But I do know this. When we left, we didn't leave it behind. It followed us. It's still out there somewhere in the jungle, and I'll never know if it's still watching. But deep down, I know it is. Over the years, I've tried to reach out to others, hoping maybe they could help me piece together what happened. I've looked for any signs of the strange reports, anything that could explain what we saw, but there's nothing. The military, the government, They've all swept it under the rug. No one talks about it. Every time I bring it up, people just dismiss it, chalk it up to stress or war-induced paranoia. But I know what I saw. I know what we all saw. And it's not something you can just brush off like that. I sometimes wonder if we were meant to forget, if whatever it was in that jungle didn't want us to remember. The more I think about it, the more I realize that it wasn't just the light in the sky or the strange tracks. It wasn't just the feeling of being watched. It was something much deeper, something that reaches into your soul, something that shifts you, changes you. When I close my eyes, I can still feel that fear, that bone-deep dread. I remember standing there in the middle of the jungle, surrounded by my team, feeling like we were no longer human, like something had already taken us, even if we couldn't see it. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like a part of me was left behind in that jungle, like it's still there, waiting for me to return. Sometimes when I'm alone in the dark, I feel it again, that cold, that pressing weight on my chest. It's not just fear anymore, it's something else, something more primal. It's like I'm being pulled back, like whatever was out there is calling me. I try to tell myself it's just my mind playing tricks, that the jungle did something to me, made me see things that weren't there. But I know better. I've been to places that should have killed me, but nothing compares to the terror I felt that day. Nothing compares to what we experienced in the jungle, that silent, suffocating presence. I've never been able to get rid of it. And no matter how many years go by, no matter how many times I try to tell myself it's over, I can't shake the feeling that it's not. That whatever we encountered in that jungle isn't done with us yet. It's still watching. Maybe it always will be. And maybe that's the most terrifying part of all, that something out there knows we know. And it's waiting, patiently, for the day we're foolish enough to return. The strangest thing, though, is that no one else seems to know anything about it. I've searched online, talked to others who served, and not a single person has ever shared anything that comes close to what we went through. It's like the entire event has been erased from history, wiped clean as if it never happened. I've heard rumors, stories of other units seeing strange lights, hearing noises, encountering the same kinds of feelings, but no one has the full picture. It's like we were part of some kind of strange experiment, a dark chapter that no one is willing to open. And maybe that's what makes it even worse, knowing that there's a piece of history that's been hidden from the world, something so disturbing that no one wants to acknowledge it. It's almost like we were just pawns, dropped into that jungle, and the powers that be wanted to make sure we stayed quiet. But I can't stay quiet anymore. I can't pretend it didn't happen. The fear I felt that day, it's still with me, and I don't think I'll ever be free of it. The years go by, but the memories don't fade. I can still smell the damp earth of the jungle, still feel the oppressive weight of the air, still hear the hum that never quite left my ears. I've never been able to fully move on from that day. I've tried, believe me. I've tried to convince myself it was just a hallucination, something the stress of the jungle and the war did to our minds. But deep down, I know it wasn't. Whatever we encountered, whatever was watching us, it was real. And it's still real. Every now and then I'll see something, an article, a story, a whisper, that makes my heart skip a beat, makes me wonder if someone else out there knows what we saw. I wonder if anyone else can feel what I felt, can still hear that hum in the air, can still feel the presence that haunted us. But no matter what I find, it never seems like enough. I don't have the answers. I don't think anyone does. And maybe that's the most terrifying part. The uncertainty, the not knowing what it was, what it wanted, or why it chose us. It's out there, and no matter how many years pass, no matter how far I go, I'll never forget. Because deep down, I know it's not finished. It's still waiting. And it knows we remember. When I close my eyes at night, it's not just the past that haunts me. It's the future. I can't help but feel like whatever we saw in that jungle is still out there, still watching, still waiting for the right time. Maybe it's already found someone else, someone who's going to face the same horror we did. Maybe it's waiting for us to return. But no matter what happens, no matter how many years go by, I know one thing for sure. The jungle never let us go. Whatever we saw, whatever we felt, it's with me forever. And maybe that's the worst part. The terror never ends. It just waits. And one day, it'll find its way back to us. I don't know why I'm sharing this now, or why I feel the need to get this off my chest after all these years. Maybe it's because I'm finally starting to understand that I'll never be rid of it. It's not just a memory, not just a story. It's a part of me, a dark chapter that will never close. I'll never be able to forget what happened out there in the jungle, and I don't think I want to. Maybe it's time to face it, to stop pretending like it didn't happen, because deep down, I know it did. And that's something I'll never escape. It's out there, and it's still waiting for us. It's waiting for me. It always will be. If you're enjoying this and want to support the channel in bringing more chilling stories like this, any contribution is greatly appreciated. The donation link is just below this video. It's safe, easy, and fast. No registration required. Even the smallest support means so much. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Third story, Afghanistan 2010. It started like any other regular night out in the desert. We were a team of 8 soldiers stationed in a remote area of Afghanistan. It was supposed to be just another recon mission, one of those boring, quiet nights where you just sit and wait, nothing too exciting. But then, something happened. Around 2 a.m., we noticed it. A series of strange lights in the sky. It wasn't like anything I had ever seen before. No aircraft, no flares. These lights were hovering in place, flickering, almost pulsing. At first we thought it was a drone or something else military, but it wasn't moving the way anything we knew should. The light wasn't steady. It was like it was alive. There were 6 of us awake at that point, and we just stared at it, mesmerized. Nobody dared speak for a moment, as if saying something would break the spell. We had all heard the stories, you know? Alien sightings, things like that, but none of us actually believed it. But this felt different. The air around us seemed to change. It got colder, and suddenly the usual sounds of the night, the wind, the distant hum of the desert, just stopped. Total silence. That's when the panic started to creep in. We tried to radio it in, but the comms were dead. Not a crackle, not a single word from HQ. My heart started to race. I could see it on the faces of the others. They were starting to get as unsettled as I was. And then, without warning, the lights just moved. Not in a smooth arc, but in a way that felt wrong. It was as if they were shifting, like they were aware of us watching them, like they were toying with us. The whole team was on edge now, no one talking, just watching in silence. That's when everything went black. No warning, just black. The kind of black that feels like it's inside you, like you can't see, can't breathe, can't think. I don't remember much after that. I remember flashes, images, feelings, sounds. but they didn't make sense. Everything was distorted. There was a pressure, a weight. I felt like I was being pulled, but I couldn't move. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the lights were gone, and we were too. When I woke up, it was daylight. The sky was bright and harsh, the sun shining in my eyes, but the world felt off. My whole body ached. My head was pounding. I sat up and looked around, trying to piece together what had happened. The other guys were slowly stirring, rubbing their eyes, looking around like they had no idea where they were. It wasn't until we tried to stand that I realized something was wrong. Our gear, our weapons, everything was in disarray. Some of us had our clothes torn, others had strange burns on their skin. And then there was the smell. It wasn't like anything I'd ever encountered before. Sterile, metallic, almost like a hospital mixed with something rotten. One of the guys, Sergeant Lawson, tried to speak, but all he could say was, "It was real. We were inside something." He was shaking, his eyes wide with fear, and that's when we all started talking at once. The memories started flooding in, fragments, flashes, things that didn't make sense. We had been in a ship, a metal ship. The walls weren't walls. They were like liquid, moving, shifting. I couldn't get the images out of my head, and neither could the others. We had been inside. Something had happened to us. Something we couldn't explain. But none of us knew how to tell anyone. We couldn't remember how we got there, how we ended up in that strange place, or even how long we'd been gone. But we all knew one thing. It wasn't just a dream. And the worst part, the lights, the way they hovered above us, the way they watched. We were their prey. When we finally made it back to base, it was clear something wasn't right. We were disoriented, but not in the way you'd expect from a long mission. We were different. It's hard to explain. The look in our eyes was empty, like we'd lost something. The first few days after we got back were a blur. Our commanding officer couldn't make heads or tails of what had happened. He tried asking us about our disappearance, but none of us could give a clear answer. It was like there was a fog in our minds, a gap that we couldn't bridge. We all had flashes of what we'd seen, like images burned into our brains, but the moments didn't add up. The doctor came in to check on us, but it didn't help. None of us were physically injured in any real way, but mentally we were broken. I remember sitting in the dark, the only sound the distant hum of the base's generator, and just staring at my hands. They didn't feel like mine. I didn't feel like me. It wasn't just me, though. It was all of us. We would catch each other's eyes and look away, unable to speak the truth. Something had happened to us, something that we couldn't describe to anyone. I tried to sleep, but I kept seeing the lights. They wouldn't leave me alone. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them flickering in the sky, hovering, waiting. Days passed, and the confusion only deepened. We all began to experience things we couldn't explain. Some of us started having dreams, or at least we thought they were dreams. They weren't like anything I'd ever felt before. It wasn't the usual anxiety of a soldier's nightmare. It was like we were back inside that ship, floating, surrounded by something we couldn't see. Every night it was the same: light, pressure, and this terrifying sense of being watched. One by one, the team started breaking down. We'd have these episodes where we couldn't remember where we were, what we were doing. It was like we'd been reset. Our minds scrambled, but only for short bursts. I remember Sergeant Lawson's eyes wide with panic. He couldn't hold it together anymore. He kept saying things like, "They're still here," and "They want us back." The other guys started avoiding him, thinking it was the stress, but deep down, we all felt it. There was something wrong. We didn't belong here anymore. Something about that ship, that place, had changed us. I don't know if it was the light, the absence of time, or whatever the hell had happened to us, but I knew we were never going to be the same. And the worst part, we didn't know if we were ever going to fully come back, if they were still out there, watching. Eventually, we all started to unravel, each of us in our own way. For me, it was the constant fear that we weren't alone. I would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, hearing strange noises, buzzing like a low hum that seemed to come from the walls or maybe inside my head. I tried to ignore it, but it wouldn't stop. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at the ceiling, certain that there was something up there, something watching me. Other times I would catch glimpses of shadows moving in my peripheral vision, like they were just out of reach. But when I turned to look, nothing was there. The worst part, the other guys were feeling it too. We didn't talk about it out loud, but I could see it in their eyes. It was the same look I had, like we were all haunted. The memories of what had happened were starting to bleed into every waking moment. Sometimes I'd hear one of them whispering, in their sleep, repeating words that didn't make sense. "Not again. They're coming." We didn't leave. I tried to reach out to the higher-ups, but they just told me it was post-traumatic stress. They had no answers for us. They couldn't explain what happened to us, so they chalked it up to the stress of war. But I knew. We all knew. This was something far worse, something beyond anything we'd ever been trained to deal with. It wasn't long before things took a darker turn. Sergeant Lawson completely snapped. He'd been the first to start showing signs of real breakdown, but after a week or so, it hit all of us. Lawson disappeared one night. No one knew where he went. We searched for him for hours, calling out his name, but he was gone. It wasn't until later, when we found him, that we realized how much worse things had gotten. Lawson was in a state I can't even describe. His body was shaking violently, his eyes wide with terror, as if he had seen something that had broken him. He kept repeating the same words over and over. "They're coming. They want us back. I can't escape." When we tried to talk to him, he couldn't hold a conversation. He'd just sit there, eyes glazed over, and stare at the ground. You couldn't get him to say anything more. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't drink. And then 2 days later, he just vanished. No sign of struggle, no tracks, nothing. He was just gone. Like he was taken again. We didn't speak of it after that. We couldn't. None of us dared to say what we were thinking, but deep down, we all knew the truth. Lawson wasn't the first, and he wouldn't be the last. Something had a hold on us, and if it wanted us back, we had no choice but to wait for it. As the days dragged on, we started to lose track of time. It felt like we were stuck in a never-ending loop. We were awake for what felt like days, then we'd sleep for hours and wake up to more strange sensations. One of the guys, Corporal Miller, swore that he saw something moving in the sky again. It was another light, just like the one we saw that night, but this time it was closer, almost hovering above us. I don't know what it was, but when we looked up, we all saw it. The light flickered, pulsing like it was responding to us. And just like before, that feeling of dread, that suffocating pressure, settled over us. We were paralyzed. No one could speak. No one could move. I can't even explain it, but it was like the air itself was alive, wrapping around us, suffocating us. It lasted for what felt like hours, but when the light finally disappeared, we couldn't remember how much time had passed. I remember checking my watch. It was still the same day, but everything around us had changed. The world felt off, like we were out of sync with it. We were no longer part of this place. I could see it in their eyes. My comrades were losing themselves, slipping away. And I could feel it happening to me too. Slowly, but surely, the life we knew before that night was unraveling. And I wasn't sure if we'd ever get it back. A few days after that, we received orders to leave the base. I don't know if it was by design or if they were just trying to push us back into normalcy, but they sent us out again, back into the field, like nothing had changed, like nothing had happened. I didn't want to go, but what else could we do? We had no choice. We moved out in the dead of night, no one saying much. The tension was thick, unbearable. It was like we were all walking on eggshells, each of us, lost in our own thoughts, afraid to speak up in case we broke the fragile silence. But I could see the looks on their faces. Everyone was afraid, and we were all wondering the same thing. Were we still being watched? Were we still being hunted? The night was eerily quiet, the only sound being the crunch of our boots on the gravel. That's when I heard it again, the hum, low, steady, like it was inside my bones. I froze, and for a moment the others did too. It was unmistakable. We weren't alone. I looked up, expecting to see the same light, but all I saw was the dark sky. Still, that sense of dread was there, hanging in the air, thick and suffocating. We kept walking, trying to ignore the feeling, but it was impossible. Every step felt like it took us deeper into something we couldn't control. I could hear the others whispering now, their voices low but filled with fear. Some of them had seen it again, the lights. Others heard the hum, the vibrations in their chests, just like me. No one dared to say what we were all thinking. We were never going to escape. No matter where we went, no matter how far we traveled, that presence would always be there, watching. We were marked. I could feel it in my gut, in my soul. And then, as we reached the edge of a small ravine, we stopped, dead in our tracks. We heard something, footsteps, soft at first but growing louder. We turned, all of us, expecting to see something, anything. But there was nothing. Nothing except for the silence of the desert night. That's when I saw it. Just a flicker at the edge of my vision. It was like the air itself had twisted, contorted into something else, something wrong. And before I could say anything, the world spun around me and I was falling into darkness. When I woke up, I was alone, completely alone. The others were gone, and I was lying in the dirt, surrounded by nothing. No lights, no hum, no movement. It was like everything had just stopped. I don't know how long I lay there, but when I finally stood up, I couldn't find the others. It was just me now. The desert stretched out in front of me, endless and empty. The silence was deafening. I tried calling out for them, but my voice just disappeared into the vast nothingness. It was like I was the last person left on Earth. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like I had been abandoned, or worse, forgotten. I started walking, not knowing where I was going, but I couldn't stay there. I needed to find answers. I needed to know what happened to us, what happened to them, but the more I walked, the more I felt like I was going in circles. Every step seemed to take me further away from the truth. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't going to get the answers. Whatever had happened to us, whatever had taken us, it was beyond us now. It wasn't something we could fix. It wasn't something we could explain. And it wasn't something we could escape. We were marked. And we always would be. After hours of wandering, I stumbled upon an abandoned outpost. It was a ghost of a place, half sunken into the sand, the walls cracked and broken. I don't know why I went inside, maybe just looking for something, anything, that could explain what had happened. But when I stepped through the doorway, I felt it again. That hum, low and steady, it was like the walls were vibrating with it. My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't alone here either. I felt it deep in my bones, that same suffocating presence. It was watching, waiting. I ran out of there faster than I've ever run in my life, and the whole time that hum followed me. It never stopped. It was like it was inside my head, inside my soul. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like I was being pulled back into it, pulled back into the thing that had taken us, that had taken me. I didn't know what it wanted, but I knew that I couldn't let it take me again. I couldn't let it drag me back into the dark. So I kept running. No destination, just away. I had to get away. I don't know if I've escaped. I don't know if I ever will, but I can tell you this. I'm still not alone. And whatever it was, whatever it is, it's still watching me. Every step I take, I can feel it, and I don't know how to make it stop. When I finally made it back to the base, I thought maybe it was over. Maybe I had escaped whatever it was that had taken us. But it wasn't over. It never ended. The guys, they were gone. All of them. Not a single one of them returned. The only thing left were their personal effects, scattered around the base like they had just disappeared in the middle of doing something. And the weirdest part? There were no signs of struggle, no indication that anything out of the ordinary had happened. It was like they had just vanished. I was the only one left. I tried to tell them. I tried to explain what had happened. But they didn't believe me. No one did. They said I had suffered from trauma. They said I had imagined it all. And for a while, I almost convinced myself they were right. But then, the lights came again. They flickered in the distance just like before, and I knew it wasn't over. It would never be over. I can't explain what happened to us, to me, but I can't ignore it. I can't pretend like it didn't happen. Every night I still hear that hum. I still see the lights, and I'm still waiting. Waiting for whatever is out there to come back. Waiting for the truth to find me. But I know it's out of my hands. Whatever happened to us, whatever we went through, it's beyond understanding. I'm just one of the few who survived, but I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. I still don't know if I'm the same. If any of us were. It was like we were marked, chosen, and now we're just waiting. Waiting for something, someone, to come for us, to take us again. And the worst part, I know it's only a matter of time, and so here I am, writing this, trying to make sense of it all. It's been years and I still don't have any answers. Maybe I never will. Maybe no one will. But I can't shake the feeling that whatever happened that night, whatever took us, it's still out there. Watching, waiting. I don't know what it wants from us, but I can't ignore it anymore. It's a part of me now, a part of us. I don't know if it'll come back for me or if it's already watching someone else, but I can feel it. It's coming. And when it does, I won't be ready. None of us will be. But we'll be waiting. So, what did you think of this story? Did it scare you? Was there a part that gave you chills or stuck with you the most? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. If you've had a similar experience or have suggestions for improving future videos, let me know too. Thank you for watching and being part of this amazing community. See you in the next story.